This is going to be a summary of the chapter which talks about developing thought power. He talks about a lot of things, but in this audio, we'll talk about just a few sections from the chapter. 1. Acquisition of thought power by moral purity. He says a man who speaks the truth, who is rooted in satya or truthfulness, and who lives with moral purity naturally possesses powerful thoughts. But truth is not just in speech. The yogi who has practiced the control of anger over time carries a tremendous thought power. His very thoughts leave deep impressions on others. They don't merely speak, they transmit. Thoughts, when charged with truthfulness, he says, and earnestness and industry, they generate electricity. Virtues are the real batteries of mind, he says. He tells us that purity is the bridge to wisdom and immortality. And this purity is twofold: external or physical purity, internal or mental purity. And of the two, it is mental purity that carries more weight. When inner purity is established, we gain cheerfulness of mind, ekagrata, that is one pointedness, and indriyajaya, which means conquest over the senses, and ultimately fitness for atma sakshatkar, which is realization of the self. 2. Thought power through concentration. The human mind is a mighty force, he says. When concentrated, its power becomes immeasurable. But in most people, the rays of the mind are scattered. And it's mostly because of worldliness, or being trapped in the material world, in the lure of it, so to speak. So this leads to dissipation of mental energy in various directions. To develop thought power, we must gather these scattered rays, and it can only happen through daily discipline of concentration. And then these need to be directed Godward, or towards your higher self, universe, or whatever you believe in. You have to center yourself. He says as you cultivate attention, you gain good concentration. But concentration requires a particular lifestyle. So to make it a little simple, I've made a list of all the aids to concentration that Swamiji has so generously offered. He begins with serenity of mind, a cheerful disposition, regularity in practice, sitting at the same time and at the same place, preferably at 4 a.m., the Brahmurata, observance of Brahmacharya, which is celibacy, daily pranayam, reduction of wants and activities, viragya, which means dispassion, maun, which is silence, seclusion, discipline of the senses, constant japa, control of anger, and giving up novels, books, or newspapers, anything which takes you away from your center. To be honest, beware, the obstacles are equally detailed. He says too much physical exertion, too much talking, overeating, over socializing, too much walking, even, and excessive sexual indulgence. All of them, they derail you. So, balance, discipline, and simplicity is what make our mind fit for deep concentration, he says. 3. Organized thinking as a practice. Destroy random thinking, he says. It's mental noise. And Swamiji offers us this method, which is choose one subject and think on it deeply, exploring every layer, every facet. Take for instance, and this is the example that's given in the book, Jagadguru Adi Shankaracharya, and think his birthplace, his early life, personality, and virtues. His teachings, writings, philosophy, his shlokas, siddhis, digvijaya, his 4 disciples, and the 4 mutts that he established, his commentaries on Gita and the Upanishads and the Brahma Sutras. Think on these one by one, deliberately, he says, thoroughly, and always bring the mind back. when it begins scattering. By such organized thinking, your mental images, they start gaining clarity, intensity, and even power. And in most people, thoughts are vague, very fleeting, very distorted. But with practice, mental images become clear cut, like a sculpture. 4. Simple prescriptions for clear thinking. He says an average person does not know what deep thinking is. The mind of the common man is chaotic. His thoughts bubble and vanish. They lack any weight, any clarity, and even continuity. But he also gives us the antidote. He says engage in vichara, which means rational inquiry, practice manan, which is deep reflection, reinforce thoughts with meditation, and clarify your ideas through reasoning and introspection. Don't forget to purify your thoughts until they become transparent. Allow just one thought wave to rise and let it settle fully before the next one begins. Don't let mind jump from one thought to another. So silence that noise. And this is how a crystallized thought is born, he says. And when a thought becomes crystallized, it gains transformational power. And lastly, I would like to close with these words from Swamiji. He says, if you have no courage to face the results of your thinking, whatever they may be, whatever they may mean to you personally, take up devotion. Because the way you realize the self is by being aware of the thoughts which are coming and knowing how to deal with them, of going to the root to cut them. Swamiji keeps on insisting to nip the thoughts right in the bud. But for you to nip them, you have to go till the very root. Because if you just cut the branch, it'll keep on growing. And for that, you have to be very mindful. You have to know the vichar and manan that he's talking about, reflection. I have seen so many people debate if bhakti is better or jnana is better. I think it's very futile and it's also very disrespectful. One cannot exist without the other. There has to be a beautiful balance of both. Because I think without bhakti, your gyan becomes very, or just the knowledge becomes very dry. And without wisdom or gyan, your bhakti can become a little blind. And you can even give in to fatalism, as Swamiji had mentioned in one of the chapters. You will wait for divine forces to do everything for you, and you'll probably not take steps. So you'll run away from karma. But that is not how it works. So try to create this very mindful balance between gyan and bhakti. And for that, again, you need a lot of practice. And it's never too late, but it's never too early either. I really hope these reflections will help you. And if they do, please let me know. Om Tat Sat.